issues. Let's get the audio rolling. Yo. All right. Sorry, it's Mitch with Respect My Region. We're back with another episode of the Morning Joint. Apologize for the brief technical difficulties trying to get that audio working right. Maybe it was working, but it wasn't showing on my side. Anyways, happy Monday. Hope everyone enjoyed their weekend. I know Super Bowl Sunday was yesterday. That's what a lot of the chatter's been about. The commercials, the game, the Chiefs pulling it out at the end. Mahomes with the high ankle sprain out there doing what he's got to do. And Rihanna revealing her pregnancy during the halftime show. Seen a lot of people have opinions. This is the craziest thing about the Super Bowl and just the world we're in, man. A lot of people are having just opinions about everything. It's like overshared, overreactions all online. I don't know. So as you'll notice, my usual co-host, Dani WestCoast, is down today. She has some stuff she's taking care of, so she couldn't join us. So you're just stuck with me today. But getting right into it, man, we're going to be going over some cannabis and music topics over the last week. One of the biggest ones that came out, we don't have an article up on it yet, but thanks to our friends at Ganjapreneur, they put out an article. The maker of raw rolling papers is ordered to change packaging and promotions, cease all sales and promotions of products that contain false marketing claims. And so this was rolling paper company Republic Brands put out a permanent injunction in a federal lawsuit against HBI International. HBI International is the owner of Raw Organic Hemp Papers, also Elements, Juicy Joints, I believe. Very, very interesting, this lawsuit. Some people have been talking a lot about it. I've seen a couple people out there come into defense around it. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but starting in March, Raw has to cease sales and promoting any products that contain the following statements. They can't say it on marketing materials, or their personnel cannot say it. The HBI and or Raw contributes its funds or proceeds to a charitable entity foundation dubbed the Raw Foundation. Apparently, that foundation does not exist. Raw organic hemp papers are unrefined. They're not allowed to say that. Not allowed to say that raw organic hemp paper adhesives are made from natural hemp gum. Raw organic hemp papers are the world's first or only organic rolling papers. That raw hemp papers are made in Alcoy, Spain. They're not allowed to use any packaging stamp using the word Alcoy or referring to that area. That raw organic hemp papers utilize wind power. That raw organic hemp rolling papers are made from the center of hemp stalk. That HBI or its founder, Joshua Kesselman, invented rolling paper pre-rolled cones. That OCB organic hemp papers are knockoffs, Ronabes, copies, or fake versions of raw rolling papers. Ronabes, that must have been used in a few things, because that's kind of funny. I don't know if I'd really seen that before. But to me, there's two main things to take away from this. These products, and not to come to defense because I'm not a lawyer and I have not done investigative look into all this, but it's not that raw organic hemp papers are not made out of hemp or organic, but they use the word, they said they can no longer use the word unrefined. So there must be some level of refinement in the process, whether that's completely unnatural and potentially hazardous or dangerous. That does not mean that, but they're not unrefined, and they've been saying they're unrefined. Maybe they are really unrefined, or like 99% unrefined, but not all the way enough, unable to legally call it unrefined. I don't know. And that they're so basically there's issues around what this product is being called: unrefined, organic, natural. It's not that it's not that, but it's not by the legal definition clearly 100% without a doubt that. So again, maybe it is on that spectrum of here's unrefined and natural, and here is the opposite end. Maybe it is really close there, but it's not all the way there, so they can't legally say it. Or maybe it is somewhere in the middle and they're making claims over here. I'm not trying to defend them. I'm just trying to provide perspective that not everything is what it seems. Not everything is so black and white. And when it comes to legal claims, legal issues, black and white can be black and white, or it can be a little gray. I know it's super confusing, but such is life. But the biggest thing about this lawsuit that stood out to me is that the Raw Foundation does not exist. And you're saying a portion of profits and proceeds go to this charitable entity called the Raw Foundation, and the Raw Foundation does not exist. Is the Raw Foundation potentially in their minds an actual foundation and they take money and they do good with it? Maybe, but it's not legally a 501(c)(3). I saw some people out there on Twitter trying to say that apparently Josh had said, hey, because we're affiliated with tobacco, there's some issues around charity. So to skirt that, we have, built this charitable organization that's not quite a charitable organization. I don't know. I haven't seen that. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I haven't dug through all that. Maybe that's potentially possible. I know people that just get money and make money and donate and do good things with their money. They don't have to necessarily have a 501(c)(3). I think if you're going to call something a foundation and put foundation in the name, you better as hell have a 501(c). As someone who has and is on the board of a 501(c), we added foundation to the name of ours. And there was a brief moment in time where we did not have a 501(c) while our paperwork was in and we were waiting to get things gone through. So we would partner with 501(c). People would donate. When we would run campaigns leveraging our name, the donations would all go through a 501(c), and then we would disperse that. Either they would keep the money and we would just help promote and drive the money there, or the money would get to us and we had to pay taxes on it and then we donated it. So I'm familiar with that, but there was a brief, it was only like a 60 or 90 day period where we had a business entity and we were trying to working with our lawyer to get our 501(c) in order. Just a little lapse period of us doing some stuff and having to get the paperwork filed properly. But again, that was a brief thing. We didn't even make a lot of money, but it was very important to us. And our board was very much on the tune. If we're going to call something a foundation, it better as hell, by legal definition, be a foundation. So what we're seeing here, even the best case defense here, they called something a foundation that's not. So that's just not something I agree with. To what degree of morality do I disagree with it? I don't know, because I don't know 100% all the facts. But if that isn't true, I do have a big issue with that. And those two things, saying something is something and it's not that to consumers, that's a huge, something I'm always going to have a bone to pick. And then also claiming that you have a foundation doing charity work and you don't. Again, whether it is taking money and still doing it and you call it a foundation, but it's not really a foundation, I still have a little bit of an issue with that. It is misleading. If you guys are watching sports, Russell Wilson's getting chastised in the media right now because his foundation, spends a lot on staff and throwing events and not actually taking enough of its money to distribute to people. And I don't put in quotations because I do disagree at surface level. It is not putting enough in there. I'm just simply putting quotations because there is more to the story. They came out and claimed, hey, we use our celebrity and our branding to throw events and bring in money. And sometimes that money gets directed to the charities and foundations we work with, and it doesn't pass through us. So our financial impact might not show on our balance sheet, but it does show up in reality. And when that claims against Russell Wilson's foundation first came out, that's what I honestly anticipated it being, and that's what they're coming out as their defense. Some people are saying that's no good. Some people are saying it's good. I totally get it. As someone that, again, has a charity, throws charity things, has worked with some celebrities on charity, leveraging celebrity name helps a charity. We did a charity drive last year, and some Pearl Jam donated, like, I can't even remember the dollar figure, but tens of thousands of dollars to our charity, right? And they made that donation to our charity, so it went through our charity. But if Pearl Jam they would have taken more of a face of our drive, and even though the money passed through us, if you were to audit them, that money wouldn't show up on their books. It showed up on our books, but they obviously put up money themselves, and attaching their name to that helped us get greater reach and acquire more dollars. So I do understand some things. Again, back to that, things are not always so black and white. But when it comes specifically back to this Raw thing, I have a little bit of a bone to pick with two things that come from this lawsuit. Calling something one thing and it's not that, and marketing that to consumers, I have an issue with that. And saying you're donating, portions of profits to a charity that doesn't exist. Meanwhile, flying private and making a lot of money, and making money off the backs of tobacco companies, big tobacco. Anyways, so this HBI, this Raw Rolling Papers lawsuit, it's a big thing. We're going to see some more talks of that. I really hope there's some lawyers out there that can help dissect more of this stuff, show some more of the facts on paper. But, it's pretty clear from what I'm reading, looks like there was a big fuck up, and this is going to be a big issue for Raw. But on to some positive news in the cannabis space. Luke Scarmazzo was freed early last week. Luke served almost 15 years on not only a nonviolent cannabis offense, but he was operating a licensed medical dispensary in the state of California and was the target of a federal case. So this is one of those cases. This is earlier in the earlier 2000s when medical cannabis wasn't quite as big. It wasn't quite as protected. I don't believe at this time we had, there was a part, I remember in Obama's presidency where he was like, all right, the feds need to honor the state's wishes. We need feds to stop raiding medical dispensaries. They didn't stop raiding medical dispensaries, by the way, but they did at least have some public perception and verbiage put out there around protecting states' rights. But sadly, before that, there was victims of these unjust law on drugs. But we see Luke Scarmazzo running a licensed medical dispensary in the state of California. Him and his partner were arrested. He served almost 15 years. And over the last 15 years, he was separated from his families or daughters. We've seen cannabis go recreational in California. We've seen medical cannabis come to Bible Belt states. We've seen entrepreneurs cover get on the cover of Forbes, all these news outlets to talk about being an entrepreneur in cannabis. Meanwhile, the entrepreneurs of yesterday are literally sitting in prison for doing the same thing. And when looking at a Luke Scarmazzo, he was actually doing it by the law. And what's crazy, and I'm not trying to throw any political shot. Well, maybe, we freed Brittany Griner from Russia before we freed Luke Scarmazzo from prison. And I'm all about, shout out BG, glad we brought her home. But we really had the president of this country sitting on the podium talking about someone being falsely imprisoned for unjust laws around cannabis in an enemy state. Meanwhile, Luke Scarmazzo was serving the last of 15 years in prison for operating a legal medical cannabis dispensary in California. Absolutely outrageous. Stoked that man is free. Sick into my stomach it took this long to do that. But that's good news. We can rejoice. I saw some of the videos of Luke hugging his family. Definitely emotional to watch as a father and someone that operates in this industry and someone that's operated in this industry when his situation was, a worst nightmare of mine for many, many years. So shout out that man. Shout out everyone that helped bring him home. Everyone that helped bring some attention to that. The activists. You guys are really, really, are really important. So keep doing that. We still got a lot of people we need to bring home. We got a lot of people locked up in this country that still need to be brought home. And when they're brought home, all you MSOs, all you venture fucking capitalists, anyone out there that's trying to get in this game, look to some of those people for positions of leadership, advisory boards, put those people in positions to win. They literally, them and their families literally paid the sacrifice for you guys to come up in this space and make millions of dollars. So I'm not going to get too much on a high horse, but glad that man is free. And I would just encourage other companies, like if you're an MSO, if you're a leader of an MSO and you don't even know who Luke Scarmazzo is, you need to read up and not just stop at that name, man. There are many other names that you need to check out. Shout out, the homie Weldon Angelos has been bringing a lot of attention to that. Anthony L'Oreal, Corvain from 40 Tons, they've been talking about Luke Scarmazzo a lot. They honestly, it's a name I know, but because of my affiliation with 40 Tons, they're always posting that name. And so shout out 40 Tons again, the homies for always putting that issue forward. Next on cannabis news, man, CannaCon is coming to the South. So speaking of cannabis legalization and destigmatization, God dang, I can't say it. Changing, we've got a cannabis conference coming to Mississippi. Mississippi is one of the hot medical states. To me, it's crazy to see Mississippi. I was born in Tennessee, in Memphis, so right across the river, or right across the river, we got Arkansas. But right around that area, we have it's the Mississippi River. Right across in that area, right, we have cannabis being legalized. I'll never forget a couple years back when I was back in Memphis, I bought, in one of the most sketchiest situations of my life, I bought some of the worst weed in my life. So it's crazy to see legal weed come down there, and not just the fact that it's available, but that people are in favor of it in such highly scrutinized conservative areas. But anyways, CannaCon's coming to Mississippi. Although it's a medical state, you do not need a medical card to attend. They are actually going to be medical card consultations on site. There's going to be after parties, 2 days of panels, February 24th, 25th in Biloxi, Mississippi. You can check that out at CannaCon.org. It's going to be, again, it's just crazy to see cannabis coming to the South, man, legally. It's been coming there for a long time, but we're seeing it legally now. So you can save 30% off with the code CC30. And then I also have tickets available at the door. And again, although it is a medical state, you do not need a medical card. Coming up next in cannabis news, People's Remedy just picked up our RMR Legacy Smalls line. So for those of you out there who don't know, the RMR Legacy Smalls line, we have a 7-gram Smalls quarter of premium indoor available in the California market. We're in about 20 doors right now. We started selling a couple months ago, but People's Remedies picked us up in Patterson, Atwater, Oakdale, and the Lone Palm dispensary in Modesto. So check out People's Remedy. Let me see what price do they got us at there, man? I don't know. Maybe it's on here. Oh, 32, man. They're selling our stuff for just $32 plus tax for a 7-gram quarter of Smalls. And it's fire. I don't smoke bullshit weed, and I smoke our weed. Coming up in music news. So we put out an article, rappers with OnlyFans accounts. So, OnlyFans, it's funny, is definitely known for the not for work safe, or not safe for workplace, right? The explicit content, when we generally think of OnlyFans, we think of its connection to sex work. But it's obviously a platform that extends much more than that. It's a premium subscription platform where you can subscribe to people, and maybe you're trying to get a little look at noodle pictures, or maybe you're, trying to just stay tapped in with somebody that you look up to or want to follow. So we looked through and made a list of rappers with OnlyFans accounts. Not all of these are doing the explicit stuff. Some are. Some of these names, Soulja Boy, I hope he's not doing any explicit photos on there, but I wouldn't put it past him. Bad Baby, she definitely is. Lil Pump, Iggy Azalea, DJ Khaled and Fat Joe, Ruby Rose, Bump J out of Chicago, Lil WAP, Blueface, NLE Choppa. And then also, if you're a fan of NLE Choppa, we just dropped an official interview with him with our friend Devon from Drops Media, Hip Hop DX. Check that out, man. That's up on the site and our YouTube. Really dope. Appreciate Aisha over at Warner for hooking that up. Next, we put out a list of 10 LA hip hop artists to watch in 2023. And this is hip hop artists, not just rappers. I'm going to run through those names. You can check out the article in the description, and then also at respectregion.com. But we got Tia P, Nilla Allen, Epic Must Die, One Take J, Elijah Banks, G Perico, Chloe the God, Chloe the God, DZG, Cam Griff, Callie the Poet. Yeah, so there's some stuff coming out of LA to check out. What's up, Munson Burner? How you doing? Appreciate the comment, bro. Next up on music news, Souls of Mischief is celebrating 30 years of 93 Till Infinity. The album and that classic song. Whether you know who Souls of Mischief is off the top of your head or not, I guarantee at some point in your life you have heard the song 93 Till Infinity, one of the biggest hip-hop songs of all time. So they're celebrating 30 years of that being out, and they're going on a world tour. It's crazy to think about, right? I'm 35, but it's crazy to think about hip-hop. A hip-hop song's been on this earth almost as long as I have. Growing up, hip-hop artists didn't have longevity. We didn't really have old hip-hop artists because the genre was so young. We look at some of these things like a Dave Matthews or Willie Nelson are performing much, and even I mentioned Pearl Jam earlier. A lot of rock and other genres, we see people perform well into their old age. That hasn't really existed. Hip-hop has been so youth-based and counterculture. Once something's established, it's hard to establish as counterculture while being established and making millions of dollars. And obviously, as you get older, you lose touch and lose appeal with the youth. So we haven't really seen, a lot of artists get older. We're looking at Jay-Z, still out there touring, not as a little bit here and there. Run DMC. We're seeing some of these artists, still go out there, put music out and tour. But Souls of Mischief, 30 years, man. Hats off to the Bay Area legends, 93 Till Infinity. They're making good on that claim. 30 years later, still rocking that around the globe. Next up on music, We have Seattle's Day In, Day Out Festival. They announced their 2023 lineup. Man, we dropped that the day it came out. So set up on this. So Day In, Day Out is produced by Daydream State. It's the 3rd annual festival. It's going to the Fisher Green Pavilion at the Seattle Center. What's dope about the Seattle Center, it's right in the center of Seattle. If you grew up out here, Bumbershoot takes place around in that same area. The Mopop Museum of Music Music Museum is right there. So it's definitely a vibrant music community-driven area. So it's always fire when we're able to put community events out there, especially music, and especially if you're blessed with some lucky weather, which, you know, out here in Seattle, it's always up or down. But this event is on August 12th or 13th, so it's likely that you're going to be experiencing the most beautiful time of Seattle. Very, very likely. Element is owned by Raw. Yes, I know it is. It is sad. I saw some people on YouTube, Michael, for the comment. I saw some people out there talking about in the initial comments, like, yeah, fuck Raw, it's all about Element. And then people were like, yo, it's the same company. And then I saw the comments like, damn, I could sense the letdown in the comments. And then we'll get back to that before we get out of here. Okay, and then more in the lineup Day In, Day Out. So we got Leon Bridges, Dominic Fike, Willow. And then locally, we got the Carries, Acid Tongue, Sea Lemon, and then Enum Claw. If you don't know Enum Claw, rock band coming out of the Tacoma-ish area. Some of the groups are from the surrounding area. Enum Claw is actually the name of a town here in Washington. We always say we can tell if you're not a local, if somebody says that name and butchers it completely, that's one of the ways we can tell you're not really from out here. And then Enum Claw is also known for something else, which I don't want to say on here. Search Enum Claw horse if you really want to know some not for work safe information of what Enum Claw is known for. But anyways, Enum Claw is a dope band that's really been taken over the last year. Very raw, punkish, man. Local heroes out here. Next up, outside of music, man, Scream 6. I had to include that. We usually just do music and cannabis news on this. I'm a big Scream fan. I hate horror movies as a genre. I'm not a big horror genre person, but Scream is one of my favorite series of movies. And that Scream 6 movie's looking legit, man. I'm excited to go check that. I really like the 5th one, but I also cannot promote Scream 6 without saying they're really letting us down by not paying that woman, man. Neve Campbell, the fact that she dropped out of this movie, literally the face of the franchise, didn't do it because she felt disrespected by the offer. I cannot believe y'all disrespected the queen like that. How we having a Scream movie? Should have paid her whatever you needed to pay her, even if she was just doing a cameo, because there is no fucking Scream 6 without that woman. So I don't know how it's like having Mission Impossible and not having Tom Cruise in it, because Tom Cruise, and not only because it's not because Tom Cruise said no, it's because Tom Cruise didn't get paid enough, bro. When you're a star, when you're the face of the franchise, you pay him. And I hate to quick and run. It's because of this and that, but it's hard to say. Neve said she felt if she was a male, she would have been paid. And again, even if Tom was like, I'm done with Tom Cruise or Mission Impossible, and they came out with a new one, they would pay that man a ticket just to have a cameo, just to get his blessing and transfer on the series. You can't be having, if Neve didn't want to do it, that's one thing, but she's not doing it because you didn't pay her. Even though I'm a Scream fan, even though they're going to get money out of me, bro, y'all cannot do that. I hope this movie makes a ton of money. You do a next one, and then you pay that woman more than she's worth to be in that, because that's just a travesty, bro. You got to pay people. And before we get up out of here, we're going to circle right back just because I see those comments in there. Raw Papers, I'm curious what you guys think. Are they done for good? Are they able to survive this? From my understanding, they need to pull a lot of products off the market and completely change their packaging. A company like that, the amount of inventory they have, the amount of supply that's likely in production to completely change all that is going to be tens of millions of dollars of sunken cost. Maybe that helps them on that. Maybe it offsets some taxes and doesn't completely kill them. A loss can be circled up into somewhat of a W. But is the public perception done? I feel like so many people still like them. The name Raw, and it's a brown paper, but they lean on it being raw and unrefined, and the name is Raw. I think the branding is great through and through, even without saying that it's from Alcoy, Spain, even, not being able to call it unrefined. To me, that's definitely going to hurt it. But I'm really curious, sometimes when you hit critical mass, like the average consumer and even people in the industry might not even be aware of this lawsuit, and some people might not even care. What they might not even hear about it, or might not care. I don't know. But this also leaves an opportunity for someone else that maybe really makes good on these marketing claims to come out and center that and wage a little bit of war. I don't know. It's just really interesting. Michael said they're done. Their repetition's all over there. Yeah, he said, if their brand isn't organic real hemp, then it isn't healthy. I ain't smoking metal. Yeah, I mean, I know, but at the same time, I always say this. We were smoking weed. If you've been smoking weed, raw papers was big before weed was legal. We were all smoking heavy metals then. We were all smoking weed with nasty water, weed that was sprayed. And I'm not trying to make a claim and say, oh, that shit's fine. But we were all doing that 10 years ago, and we didn't care. Since the information's come out, some people do care, some people don't. A lot of consumers are protected by testing that don't even know enough to care. So it's one of those things where I always question, how much of an impact is that going to have? I don't know. Right now, it's definitely negative, but a lot of what I'm seeing is strictly from the industry. And then those that are in the industry or super passionate tend to live in an echo chamber where we all passionately care about shit, and the general consumer, not even the general public, right? Still the general cannabis consumer doesn't care, or doesn't even know enough, or doesn't care enough to know. I don't know. There's a lot of variables there. I'm curious if they're going to outlast this. Again, I have two issues with it. If you're saying something is this and it's not really that, and that's what you're marketing to people, I have a really big issue with that. And if you're saying you have a charity donation that you're donating some of the proceeds to that you're not doing, I got a really big issue with that. Again, maybe there's a little bit more to it. Maybe it is 99.9% unrefined, but by legal definition, that 0.01% is unallowing them to call it unrefined, and that's what it is. So on paper saying they can't call it unrefined because it's not sounds worse than actually what it really is. And again, maybe the charity foundation, there's some things with how they use funds that make it not as bad as it sounds in this legal judgment. I don't know. There's always multiple, not even two sides, three sides to the story. One side, the opposing side, and the truth somewhere in the middle, man, or the context that changes it. I don't really know. But what it's looking like right now, it's not looking good. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not really a paper smoker, but I'm definitely not buying no raws for a minute until I get some more clarification on this. And if it is really on some deceitful whatever, then yeah, I hope that company, somebody, there's a fork stuck in it. And that joint's done, because I'm not for all that. Anyways, that's this episode of Morning Joint. We'll be back next Monday. Should be joined by my usual co-host, Dani WestCoast. Appreciate you guys rocking out for us. RespectMyRegion.com. We got new content dropping